What's poppin', you guys? How y'all doing this week? How y'all doing this month? This year? Like, yeah, it's 2022. Where I been at? Where I been at? How y'all doing? What's good? Happy New Year. Anyways, if y'all new here, my name's Ciara, and this is Self-Made Energy, where we want for nothing because we can manifest anything. Y'all, I'm just really going through a lot in my personal life right now, and it's really just taking a toll on my time and my energy. Like, I want to create, and body's like, nah, lay down and stay. So, I lay down and stay. But I can't keep doing that. I know. I can't keep doing that. I know. You ain't got to tell me. Because I know. I already know. And I'm not depressed. This ain't depression. I'm tired. I'm motherfucking tired, boss. Nah, like, honestly, I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. Recently, my grandmother has passed away, and that has really, like, it took me and it sent me, and I'm not here right now. Like, I'm somewhere else. So the content is coming. It's just gonna come a little bit slower because I need a minute. I just need some time. I feel like when I'm painting, it's not what's in my mind. It's not, like, it's a disconnect. When I'm sewing, I'm like, disconnect. So I need to take some time. But I'm going to still push stuff out for y'all because I've made quite a few things. It's just editing that I haven't done. So y'all still going to get some stuff, but it's going to be slow. But keep looking out for me because I'm going to be here. I'm not going nowhere. I'm here. Just in the back. Lay back in the background right now. I'm chilling. But I'm here. You guys, I'm trying to get into this cute little shirt, jacket, shacket, whatever you want to call it. You could wear it as a shirt, you could wear it as a jacket, you could throw it over something. It's just a statement, and the statement says, wow. Yes, but it's this piece I got on right now, y'all. I'm really feeling this. I love it. It took forever, and editing, it took even longer. But y'all, it's here. All right, let me stop playing. Let's get into it because y'all been waiting long enough. So let me stop wasting your time. We out.
Okay, so boom, this what happened. The first thing I did was cut out the front of both sides of this shacket or jacket or shirt or whatever you want to call it. I needed the front of both sides. So this is 2 layers, and it's going to be cut right down the middle so you can have one side be the buttons and one side be the buttonholes. And now I'm going to work on cutting out the back. And this part is going to be cut out on the fold. And I'm using the front piece to line up with the back, making sure that those side seams are going to match with the pattern on the fabric. So if you have a fabric that has some kind of pattern, make sure you line it up. Once I'm done cutting out the front and the back pieces, I just made sure the bottoms and the tops were lined up correctly. And I also wanted to add a little detail to the back of the jacket, so I cut that back piece into 2 pieces. I also cut out the sleeves, and I used random scraps of the fabric to cut out pieces like the pockets and the pocket flaps and the buttonholes and the epaulettes and the collar, things like that. I just used random pieces to cut those pieces out. Everything was cut out twice except for the back. I only cut out one. I also made sure to cut out interfacing for things like the collar and the epaulettes and the wrist cuffs. Just anything that I wanted to be a little bit more sturdy. Once I'm done cutting out all 13 of my pattern pieces and interfacing them, it's time to focus on marking the key points on what I need to mark. This would be the darts, the waistline, and the middle where I would make the buttons meet on the front seams. So that opening that you would like button, I guess. I don't know how to explain it, but I'll show you later. I also want to make sure that I pin up those darts and move on to preparing the pockets to also be pinned onto that front section before I move on to the sewing machine. So I'm just going to take those pockets and fold them up along that middle seam just to create a little look. It's not really anything purposeful, at least for me. I should probably Google what this is actually for because I'm sure it's for something. But rambles, iron that into place and move on with your life because I don't even know what I'm talking about. And now it's time to whip Trixie out. And the first thing I'm going to sew up is those pocket flaps that go over the top of the pockets. And I'm also going to sew up the darts. In order to do the pocket flaps, I just took the 2 pieces of fabric, right sides together, and I did a straight stitch around the entire perimeter, leaving a tiny opening in order to flip it right side out. And moving right along past that minor explosion that we just had, I'm going to attach the pockets to the front of both sides of the jacket. Now we did mark where those pockets go previously, so you're just going to do a straight stitch around 3 sides of the pocket. Leave that top opening so you know you can put your hands in it. It's a pocket, not a patch. And then you're going to take that top flap that you created and just going to do a straight stitch over the top only, leaving the other 3 sides open so you can flip it up and down. We need a pocket, not 2 patches. Once I was done attaching the pockets to both sides of the front, I moved that to the side and moved on to doing the back. Now I know I wanted to have some pleats in the back, maybe 1 or 2, nothing extra, but just a little design, just the look. Again, this is not for function, it was just a look. So I made 2 box pleats right in the center and I folded those down and did a top stitch along the top and about 3 centimeters down the pleat just to hold it into place. And once I was done creating the pleats, I took that top piece of the back and I placed it right sides together and I did a straight stitch along the entire back line, connecting those pieces together, and now I have 1 back piece ready to attach to the front. And that's the next step. So I'm going to take those 2 front pieces and line them up right sides together on top of the back, but I'm only going to attach them at the shoulder seam at this point. Only attach them at the shoulder seam. Trust me, it'll make your construction later much easier. Once those 2 pieces are attached, I'm going to take the front of both sides and I'm going to do a 1-inch fold 2 times on both sides. This is creating the placket for the button and the buttonhole. Make sure you do the fold 2 times because you're going to need this thickness. If you don't have enough fabric to fold it twice over, you can use some interfacing and fold it over once, and that'll still give you the thickness that you need for your buttonholes. I'm not sewing the placket down at this point. I'm just folding and ironing it into place, and I'm going to move on to attaching the collar because I need to make sure that the collar is going to line up with the end of these plackets before I attach them permanently. Make sure you don't skip this step. So I'm going to take the bottom half of the collar and I'm going to face it right sides together with the top half of the neckline, and I'm going to do a straight stitch along that line. Once that's done, then I'm going to take the other side of the collar and place it on top, right sides together, and I'm going to do a straight stitch along that top, connecting the collar pieces together, but not connecting both to the shirt just yet. It should only be connected on one side. At this point, you're going to want to do some clip-ins just to make sure that once you flip it over, it'll lay nice and flat. So you're going to just flip that over and fold those bottom edges in just to make sure there's no raw edges showing. And you're definitely going to want to iron this into place. Trust me when I say ironing is going to be your best friend on this project because it helps everything stay the way you planned it and everything's not moving around. Once I have the collar pinned down the way I want it, I did a top stitching around the entire collar, securing those raw edges under and also making sure that everything lined up nice and neat. So when you flip the collar up and down, there won't be any ugly stitching or any kind of bumps or lumps. So make sure you iron this part down before you do the top stitching around the entire perimeter because you definitely want it to lay flat. Once I was done attaching the collar, now it was time to make sure that the edge of those button plackets lined up with the edge of the collar. And I wanted to make sure this was a right angle Once you're sure you have the right angle and everything's nice and even, you can do a top stitch around the entire perimeter of both sides of the button placket and the buttonhole placket. I guess they're called plackets. I really don't know. You need a spot for your button and you need a spot for your buttonholes. There you go. Okay, it's looking pretty bomb. Now it's time to move on to attaching the side seam pockets. And you already previously should have marked out where those go. So you're going to attach them right sides facing each other, one on each side of the front and the back. And make sure that they line up on both sides because you are going to flip them over and do a top stitch around. But for now, we're just going to connect it one side at that side seam. Right sides together. Make sure it's right sides together. So now we're just going to do a little bit of jumping around and we're going to move on to the epaulettes, and this is for the ease of construction. So for now, we're just going to take our two epaulettes and face them right sides together and do a top stitch around the entire perimeter, leaving a little opening so you can flip them right side out. And make sure before you flip them, you clip those corners and you clip the curves so that it'll be nice and seamless and flat once you flip it over. And you're going to want to do the exact same thing to the other epaulette. And this is the part that goes on your shoulder that like flips ups and down. I'm not sure what it's for. It definitely had a purpose back in the day, but not so much now. But definitely add it for the look because, what? It looked fire. Alright, so now I'm going to move on to trying to do this trick that I tried to do when I was making my Diamond Daisy reversible faux fur coat. And I'll leave the description for that in the box. What? I'll leave the link for that in the description box. But anyway, just talking about that incident is just creating more incidents. So we're not going to talk about that no more. Traumatized. Now that I know exactly what to do, I'm going to try to explain it to you one more again. So I'm going to take the epaulette and I'm going to place it on top of the armhole, and then I'm going to take the sleeve and I'm going to place it on top of the epaulette, and I'm only going to do a top stitch around the sleeve hole, not up and down the entire sleeve, just where the armhole opening is, not the sleeve hole, armhole. That's the word I'm looking for. See, I can't explain this. What are words? Okay, we're going to try this again. So you take the epaulette, right, and you place it on the shoulder seam. And then you take the sleeve and you line the middle of the sleeve up with the middle of the shoulder seam and the middle of the epaulette. And you sandwich the epaulette in the middle like a sandwich. I said sandwich too many times. Anyway, then you take that and you only gonna sew around the armhole. So you're gonna start from under the arm, go all the way around the armhole, across the shoulder seam, and back down to the other side of the armhole and stop. And you're going to do that to both sides of the sleeve or both armholes. Whatever. You know what I mean. Hopefully. Once we finally have the top of the sleeve attached using this beautiful diagram that I provided, you're going to start at the bottom of the sleeve and you're going to do a straight stitch all the way up until that underarm. You're going to stay in the machine with your needle down and you're going to pivot and go straight down that side seam. And once you get to the pocket, instead of going straight down the side seam, you're going to go around the outside of the pocket and then continue down the bottom of the side seam. Again, do not sew your pocket closed. So you're going to go down the arm, pivot under the arm and go down the side seam and around the pocket and continue down that side seam. And you're going to do that for both sides of the jacket. This makes construction so much faster. I'm telling you, it does. Explaining it, hard. Doing it, so much easier. Okay, so I'm just going to let the video play out and you can watch me do the same steps that I just explained again. The last thing I'm going to do is attach the cuffs on the sleeves. And I basically made like bias tape for the sleeve cuffs. In order to make the bias tape cuffs, I just took a 3-inch piece of fabric, folded it in half, and ironed that into place. And then on each side, in order to tuck in the raw edges, I just folded in 1/2 inch and ironed that into place. So you basically have the raw edges tucked in with 1/2 inch, and then folded in half, it'll still be 1 inch thick. This is why I needed 3 inches. And you basically just use that to cover up all the raw edges on the sleeve and finish up that cuff. And I just attached it one sleeve at a time, a straight stitch around the entire bottom, just to tuck in all those raw edges. Really nothing special at all, just pretty much bias tape made from your matching fabric. And of course, last but not least, I had to add a little razzle dazzle to the mix. So I had to add on the buttons, and I used crystal buttons. I just hand sewed those on. And then to do the embellishments, I put a bunch of jewels all over that baby with E6000 glue. And some of them did have holes, so I did sew some of them on. But the ones that didn't have holes, I just used E6000 glue and glued them on. And it worked just fine. And y'all, this came out so bomb. So you definitely need to follow up because